So last week we talked about carbon footprints and how we pollute a lot when we use fossil fuels. And this week we're going to talk about another way that we pollute, which is when we use garbage. The good news is there's a way to reduce the amount of garbage we use so that it doesn't end up in landfills. The 3 ways we can limit or shrink the amount of garbage we use is reduce, reuse, and recycle. Your goal for today is to be able to know the difference between the 3 R's. The first word of the 3 R's is reduce. This is the best way to limit our garbage because we just avoid using resources in the first place. For example, every time we go to McDonald's, the amount of garbage that is produced is insane. Think about the amount of garbage for one lunch and multiply that by the thousands of people that eat at McDonald's every day. Instead, if you buy fresh produce, fresh food, or make your food at home, you won't have any of that garbage in the first place. This is an example of reducing because the garbage was never even there. Of course, we're going to have garbage now and then, so the next thing you want to think about is reusing. This is a good option of the 3 R's. For example, when Miss Anselmo drinks coffee in the morning, if I reuse the same mug over and over again, then I won't have to have a styrofoam cup that would just become garbage and go in the landfills. I could also find a way to use old plastic bottles either as an art project or to store other liquids, or maybe in a future science project. Recycling's the 3rd R, and it's our okay option. What recycling does is take old items, plastic, paper, cardboard, glass, puts them through a machine and turns them into a new product. For example, rubber can be collected, put through machines, and turned into turf, like the same thing the Saints play on. The bad thing about recycling is that it requires energy to collect and to change the materials into new substances. It's great to recycle when we can. It's better to reduce by not even having the garbage in the first place. All right, scholars, hope you were paying attention because right now we are going to make sure you understand the difference between recycling, reusing, or reducing. If you need help, go back and watch the beginning of the video. Otherwise, you're going to be quizzed on whether the following objects are recycling, reusing, or reducing. Be sure to include an explanation or the word because when you submit your answers. That way, I know what you are thinking in your answers. Our first example, using a coffee mug again and again. Please pause the video and write down if this is recycling, reusing, or reducing. Don't forget to put that because statement in there. This is an example of reusing. Because you're using the same coffee mug over and over again, we are reusing it. Our next example. I know it's tempting, but let's pretend instead of buying a bunch of candy at the corner store, you didn't. This way you won't have any waste. Is this an example of recycling, reusing, or reducing? Take a minute to submit your answer. Don't forget your because statement. This is an example of reducing. Remember, just like Miss Rayford says, reduce is to make something smaller. So if you reduce the amount of garbage, that means you didn't even buy anything with garbage in the first place. Oh no! Next example. When you remelt aluminum into new aluminum cans, is that an example of recycling, reusing, or reducing? As the picture shows, this is an example of recycling because we're taking old aluminum and putting it into new aluminum. This requires energy, this requires machines. This is why this is an example of recycling, turning something old into something new. We got a few more. Hopefully you're doing all right. Again, if you are struggling with this lesson, please make sure you re-watch the introductory material so that when it comes time to take your Prove It, you're ready to go. Our next example, putting paper into blue bins to be made into new paper. Take 30 seconds to submit your answer. Is this an example of recycling, reusing, or reducing? Good. Hopefully by now you understand that this is recycling because you're taking something old and using machines, you're turning it into something new. Our next example, when you bring a cloth bag to the grocery store, are you recycling, reusing, or reducing? This one is tricky because some of you guys might have put reducing, which is correct. If you use cloth bags instead of paper and plastic, you're reducing the amount of garbage you created by not having those plastic bags. But the best answer is reusing because you are able to reuse your cloth bag over and over. We have a big goal to get 100% of you guys at basic or above. The leap is coming up soon. Please make sure you're taking this seriously, and for any of those you got wrong, go back and resubmit them so you can get the highest possible grade. Hope you enjoyed watching and learning about reusing, reducing, and recycling.